just read that they said Kurt Schmidt on them. I didn't realize there was a story behind that.
Oh yeah. I did a keynote speech there about 5 years ago, and they presented that to me. It's like encased in like plastic and stuff. It's really cool.
It's a literal Kurt
it's a
Schmidt Cheerios box. What?
The real literal Cheerios box.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. It's like all the stuff and everything.
Is there cereal in it?
No, that was the fucking ripoff.
Right? What the heck?
I was like, come on.
Well, whatever.
No cereal in it.
That is crazy, though. So you did a keynote for General Mills.
Yeah.
Like about networking or business or...
Yeah, mostly about like team building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, a lot of internal networking type stuff too. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Team building exercises.
Yeah, that sort of stuff.
Well, that's pretty freaking cool, man.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Very nice group of folks. There's like 5,000 people on they had it worldwide, General Mills. So.
Wow. That's so wild.
Yeah, so there's a shit ton of people in the auditorium, but then they were also live streaming it to like their places in India and other stuff. So.
Kurt Schmidt, keynote announcer.
Yeah.
Custom Cheerios box.
Oh, why not? I used to announce all the Rampage contests.
What would it take?
I was the DJ and the announcer, and then I'd ride in the contests.
Wow. So what would it take to get you to announce a contest in 2024?
Oh man. As long as Catfish isn't there, I'll do it. He's fine. I'm just talking shit. I'd do it. I did a Baco one years ago. I guess it'd be 10 years or 15 years ago.
Still, that.
Yeah, I'd do it.
Well, there we go. We need to make that happen somehow. Maybe.
I gotta get to the Nowhere compound. Maybe what's his name will have me.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, when Carl adds onto the building and puts a Spine Mini there, you could announce the Spine Mini contest.
Fuck yeah, I will.
And then you could ride in it.
Yeah, I'll talk some shit. I'll talk some shit. That's all I did in the thing. I was just talk shit.
Well, that's like the best type of announcing.
I'd make up stories about the riders while they were... I just keep the audience engaged. I'd be like, here's Mark Murphy, and he just got arrested last night. He got out this morning, and blah blah blah. Just bullshit. You know what I mean? Like Mark would never get arrested in a million years. It's just. But I just be rolling because it keep the audience like excited. So
I think that would make it really fun.
It is super fun. It's super. I mean, we had a blast. It was great.
Man, I can't even imagine because I was never around.
Yeah.
I didn't start riding till 2006.
Yeah, like when Verhulst would ride, we'd play like New Kids on the Block because he's a big Pantera Mudvayne guy.
Oh, that's funny.
And like Chris Young would be riding. He's a big rap guy, so we'd play like country music for his run. Like just to fuck with, like all we did back then, man, was fuck with people. Like that's all you did, and it was so much fun.
It sounds like fun. Sounds like it'd just be a fun environment.
Yeah, well, I got known for it apparently. I mean, did you see Losi had posted a picture of me like a while ago and said nobody could talk shit better than Kurt Schmidt.
I didn't see that, but that is great.
Yeah, I was like, thanks, Mark. I was like, there's my legacy.
Yeah, being the best.
The best at talking shit. I'm like, okay.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. Well, there's plenty of fuckers now that do it. Thanks to social media.
See, but the problem with today's is that, like, back then, you're doing it right in front of the person. You're playing the country song right to the guy who likes rap.
You were going to see them in a month.
Yeah.
At the next contest. And if you were talking shit and you couldn't back it up.
Right. And now today,
shit was going down.
You got everybody who's talking crap on the internet anonymously.
Yeah. It's all pussies.
Yeah, well, you said it.
Pussies. They're all pussies.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, they're all pussies.
I think the thing about it that gets me the most is when they're like, "It's all just jokes, man."
Oh,
It's like,
no. Just wait till you get a little bit older and somebody starts joking about you. See how you like it, you little shithead.
Well, the actual thing is that it's all the older guys that are doing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, but again, like they've lived sheltered lives, you know.
Too funny.
Like nobody wants to fuck with them because nobody cares about them. So they fuck with other people because they're trying to get attention. That's all.
Yep.
It's like nobody gives a shit about you, dude. Oh, well, I'll put people on blast, and then they'll pay attention to me.
Man, the truth hurts.
Fuck those guys.
Hey,
that was the thing back in the day, man. Like, and I'm not trying to be like, walk uphill both ways in the snow shit, but you had to be able to throw down if you were gonna talk shit, like for real,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So you didn't. Yeah, there was way less shit talking back then. So
That's interesting because I've felt like in hearing about like the Changa 1 days.
yeah.
That I heard that it was like bad.
Oh yeah. But Chenga is like, it's a lot of Flatlanders too. Like, and they're little princesses. So
We are just all the hot takes today.
I'm telling you, they're great guys, but they love gossip. Those fucking Flatlanders.
That is funny.
They do.
Every time I've been around flat people, I've just been so mesmerized by the tricks that I wasn't listening.
Yeah. It's a different mentality, but I've got a whole take on Flatland that's a super hot take that nobody would ever like to hear.
We're gonna have to. I mean, you can't say that and not talk about it without flipping the BMX After Dark switch or something.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of inspired by your rant about the state of BMX, and I was like, the problem, if you want money in BMX, you got to make BMX accessible.
Yeah.
And the problem is BMXers don't want to make it accessible.
Yes, they want to complain.
So it's a sport just for the riders. So if you have a sport that is just for the ride, like frisbee golf is for frisbee golfers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a spectator sport.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And BMX is, and especially flatland, is not a spectator sport. Big ramps, like mega ramps, like people know like a flip and spins are hard, but they don't know the difference between a front wheel spin, a back wheel spin. You're on the pedals, you're on the pegs. They don't know the difference.
Not at all. It's
not a spectator sport. You have to be a rider to appreciate it. So unless riders are going to pay for access to flatlanders to watch them ride, they're not going to make money.
Yeah. Man, that's wild. That's tough. How do you?
Well, it isn't. How do you bridge that gap? Well, look at figure skating. You have runs that are predetermined, that you have to do all these certain tricks in your run. So way back in the day in the 80s, right? Like, you had to hit the kick turn ramp and the quarter pipe and that like led to your score. Like if you just hit the big ramp all the time, you got penalized.
Mm-hmm.
So in Flatland, if they had a thing where, and again, I'm just throwing out tricks for fun, right? Like if in your run, like no matter what, you had to do a hitchhiker crossfoot, and you had to do a death truck on the pedals, and you had to do something as part of your run, and then you filled it in with a couple of other really hot tricks, then people could understand it.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, because then the announcers would be like, all right, let's see how he does on this trick. Because like think of figure skating, right? You have the triple spins and the quadruple spins. Like everybody, they don't give a shit about anything in the middle. They're just waiting for those spins.
I think about snowboarding too.
Yeah, snowboarding, perfect. Yeah,
because it's literally just like it's gotten so insane to watch X Games snow pipe where they're like 1440 whatever and then this and that.
But to a spectator, like a 900 and 1440 don't look a lot different.
I think that for anybody who like doesn't understand what you're trying to say right now, and you don't watch snowboarding or skiing competitions, you should just watch it and try to understand, because that was me watching snowboarding.
Yeah, no, it's video games. It's like watching a real life video game.
So what does that mean for the freestyle aspect of it?
Well, again, like you have to design the spectator part of it for spectators and not for riders. Yeah. And that's what X Games did really well in the beginning, which pissed off a lot of riders. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I retired, because they were so spectator focused and I was a little shithead and I was like, oh, like this is going to be about riders. And so I'm not doing X Games, you know? But they had it down. They were like, yeah, we know exactly what we're going to build up. This guy, Tony Hawk, we're going to build up Dave Mira. We're going to come up with little nicknames for them. You know, we're going to put the 900 on like 400 times. And we're going to let him in the middle of the contest try it 12 times or whatever it is till he gets it. Whereas any other person would have gotten that opportunity. So like they designed the whole experience around the spectator getting hyped up around the story, you know, of those people. Like this is the first, you know, and the announcers would be right in there like, nobody's ever done this before. This is the first time it's ever been done. They tell the whole story. It wasn't just like, look at him go and look, a double tail whip.
Yeah, well, I think that's one thing we're definitely lacking in the BMX contest world is like announcing that goes beyond just saying what the tricks are.
Story, right? And we talked about this during our last thing. I think I talked about Nigel Sylvester, for example. Like he had a story. Like he is a fucking rock star, that guy. Like, but people hate on him because he does like the same tricks over and over again. But it doesn't matter. Because he's got a story, he knows how to tell the story, he's got a brand. So Nike will pick up on that because there's a story there. They're not going to pick up on it because he does triple Lindy's and shit, you know, like, yeah, because that doesn't sell shoes. Like who's the guy that does all the big flip stuff? Ryan something or other?
Williams, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, but there's no story necessarily with him like there is with Travis Pastrana, right? Where there's a ton of story about how he grew up and he started racing and then he got, you know, we've all learned the lore of Travis thanks to the X Games, you know?
Oh, I think there could have been with R. Willie, but it all, because of social media and Instagram, it just all got released like as it happened. Sure. But I think they still like could go back and potentially do that.
100%. Yep. 100%. Yep. Same with Tony Hawk. I mean, people thought Tony Hawk was over by the time the X Games started. He was old, you know, so they were able to rebrand him and repackage him. Like it was great. And
then like if they could do that with R. Willie, then they could have multiple people that they have like as competing people like they used to do.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, because back then, like you'd see like they'd be in between stuff. They do B-roll back at Travis's house where he's practicing the trick he's going to do in the trick contest and crashing over and over again. They're building up anticipation and stuff like that, you know? And like, if some of these riders could do that just because again, they have a TV production studio right here.
Yeah.
So if they could build up that story over Instagram to a contest coming up, like I've been working on this, I'm trying to get it. I want to pull it in this contest. Like you don't even have to wait for those other people to do it for you. You could create that narrative and that story yourself.
You are absolutely right. And I had never even thought about it that way.
Yeah. I mean, shit. Like, are you kidding? Like if I was 22 today and had a TV production studio in my pocket, like that's all I would be doing is telling stories about like, you know, getting better at something or trying to learn something, or it wouldn't just be banger, 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 because that like, you know, that's unsustainable.
And anybody and everybody can go out there and spend 3 hours to land the crazy super hard trick, then post the crazy super hard trick. And that's why it's become Instagram is only the craziest, hardest of the hard. And then the stupid stuff like me doing an ice pick, Buddy punches the bar or the tire to do a bar spin, and that gets 15 million views.
Hey man, I saw a guy at FISA do candy bar air in his run. So, you might have inspired him. You never know.
Maybe.
So, but yeah, no, but again, like that's my point. Like I think the people that do that's how people work. People love stories, man. Tell a story, and I guarantee you outshine everybody else. It doesn't matter what the trick is and whatever. You look at some of the most popular riders in the 90s and 80s, most of them were not the best riders, but they were really photogenic people. You know what I mean? Like Vic Murphy, fucking great rider.
Yeah.
But even more photogenic. You know what I mean? The Gons, a good rider, he would never like beat, Hoffman or Mira or, you know what I mean? But really photogenic. Like he could, and so again, back to that's storytelling,
It's that personal connection to the person who's looking at it. And that's what you have to develop. And I don't know how long I talked about that in that thing that I did, but it's real. You have to, and it's so easy when you are consciously like thinking about that specific concept of being personally connected, because you can be like, all right, what am I a fan of in life? And then you think of the things you like, and then you think about why, and you look at what they're doing to bring you in, and it's like they're literally creating a personal connection with you, and that's why you're a fan. It's that simple.
Exactly. And so if you want to make money from a sport or riding, you got to have a brand. It doesn't matter if you're a football player or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter what sport you're playing. If you want to actually make money at it, you've got to kind of have a brand to go along with it. And that's why I said like, but the majority of riders, skateboarders, it's not just riders, like skateboarders too, like skateboarding's for skateboarders now,
Everybody. So after I did that video, not everybody, but there were a lot of people who were like, oh yeah, like when you look at skateboarding, and it kind of frustrates me when people even do that, because I'm like, you need to think bigger than even skateboarding here.
Oh yeah,
because
I know.
Skateboarding is even minuscule in comparison to so many other things. And then if you compare that to look at freaking the European League football, like we're talking billions, not just $300 a month for your sponsor. Like we're talking billions of dollars.
But again, it's back to storytelling, like this is the underdog, and this is, every story's got that. So going into the contest, like who's the underdog, who's the top guy that wants to get taken down, and you know what I mean? But we've neutralized that because we don't want to create that kind of drama, because we want everybody to be on an even playing field and let you know what I mean? But like that's where the story gets ripped out of it, because again, like when we were younger, right, it was like Standard versus Hoffman, and which side were you on, and like we didn't hate the guys, we didn't hate Matter, but it was fun to play on, like, and people got into it, and like, but again, it was about growing the interactions and stuff people would have with the sport, like, choose a side.
And I guess, so if I'm sitting here trying to think of a good way for people to make this connection, because if somebody goes and looks at European football and like, how do we do this with all right, what you could look at is,
it's not a one-to-one. No,
look at the UFC and how they promote things.
Oh, sure.
Because the UFC is like the best when it comes to promoting. So look at everything they do. First of all, before you even get to the fight side of things, you've got a crap load of social media pushing these fights. Like they'll show pictures of this guy versus this guy on this date, and then their caption will be something that's captivating.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Yep.
And then when it comes down to fight night, they have the 3-minute video that plays before the walkout, where it's just them telling their story of like, when I was a kid, man, this and this, and I want to fight this guy because I need to go up and I'm going to be the champion one day. And like, I think it's not cool to think about things in BMX that way, but You know what else is not cool is in 10 years, if literally not a single person except for the people who work and build the frames are making money.
Yeah, exactly. And those are the people buying the frames.
Yeah, it's,
You know. Yeah, it won't be. There'll be a resurgence. There's always a resurgence. Something will happen. It'll come back, and it'll come back different.
yeah.
So it's just a matter of time. There's always a dip, and then it always a peak, and then a dip again, and so it's. But like I said again, what we need to see these days, you need another Miracle Boy, you need another Hoffman, you need another Tony Hawk, you need another Eddie Fiola, Mike Dominguez.
I've been saying it for years.
Those sorts of things, but those people weren't created by themselves. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, I was going to say this earlier too, is that every single thing that you've seen to build up someone like a Travis Pastrana, a Tony Hawk, a Dave Mirra, like that was not Travis himself thinking of all. Like, Travis is a smart dude, and maybe it was his doing to like mastermind all of this, but maybe. Not everyone was like that, where it's not just them, it's a whole machine. Built up I don't even know if anyone's going to be mad about this example because people suck, but that Oliver Anthony dude, how he was an overnight success, that didn't happen on its own. There's no way it did.
No, and it wasn't overnight. It just, we heard about him overnight.
Yeah. And
so, but that's the thing is, like, I think again, if somebody could put on a contest series or series that was more aimed towards the spectators a bit more, I think it really could help a resurgence of, I mean, and it doesn't have to be difficult. You could do flatland. You could just do brackets, for example, like this guy versus this guy advance to the next round. And
they do that now with flatland.
Do they? Okay. So
yeah.
That's good, because at least that's something. But again, like if you watch flatland, and I understand flatland, I know what's hard and what isn't hard. And it's impossible to tell which guy is better than the other guy. All you got to do is just watch how many times their foot touches the ground.
Yes. Because last X Games that had flatland in it was bracket style.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and it was literally like, who looked like they did the more technical things and did it better? Did what? Don't die on me here. Like, who looked like they did whatever they were doing smoother and better than the other person did what they were doing?
Yeah, for sure. But you look at flatland with Kevin Jones, and then Chase, and then Trevor Meyer.
Yeah.
So Kevin would invent these tricks, and he'd do them okay, right? Hang on.
No worries. Take all the time you need.
Then Chase would make them more aggressive and more difficult. And then Trevor would do all the stuff Chase did, but just make it smooth as silk. And so Trevor is great for shows, because his style and his whatever has got flair to it. He knows when to raise his hand. He knows when to let people know when to clap.
Yeah.
Because people don't know when to clap.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
You know what I mean? So, but if you watch like some of these guys, when their bike is back to normal, you'll see even the crowd like waits to be like, are they done? And then they clap. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then, but some guys that are really good with drawing the audience in to let them know, like, this is the time to engage. This is the time to clap. It's an old circus trick, man. Like, they used to do this in the circus all the time. They'd let you know with music and other things, like when was the time to react to something,
So it really genuinely feels like BMX needs more people with that knowledge to educate other people. And like, I talked about in that video too, how there's so many people who are filling the marketing roles at a BMX company who've never like learned about marketing outside of BMX.
Right.
So I use that example of like walking around the warehouse with the lights off, just trying to find what you're looking for. And that's kind of real, because if you don't know marketing, there's no real connection there that until you figure it out, that you need to know who you're trying to sell to. You need to know what they're looking for, and you need to know what they're even going to click on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. And in the early days of Standard, we knew exactly what to do. Is we would give a frame and a fork to the best rider in an area.
Yeah.
And in different territories, basically. And those people would go to the skate park, they'd be the best rider, and then everybody else wanted to buy a bike because of that person. That was the marketing. Like, sure, we did ads and stuff, but just to let people know we were like legit. But like, that was the real unlock, was being able to go around and be like, oh, you're you're this guy, you're Mark Murphy at Scrap Skate Park in Chicago. You're the best guy here, arguably. Take a frame and fork, man. Go nuts and ride it every day in that skate park, so everybody knows.
Yep.
And here's some T-shirts and all this stuff. And here, Joe Rich, Lucky, Taj, you're the best guys on the East Coast. Go wear our stuff and go to the trails. Guess what?
People are gonna buy the Standard because of it. That makes sense.
Yep. But again, like, we weren't trying to go into these places and be like, this is our territory. We're like, no, it's your territory, but you just ride our stuff,
Yeah, and
that's where like the ads got really more important later, because it was more like, because we had the Standard Country ads, that was like Marlboro Country, but it was like so it was Standard Country, and it was like this vibe, like you were part of this group.
Yeah.
Because we had early on, we had the Standard Army and stuff like that, right? And
people even do that today with their YouTube channels. Do they create their viewers and call them whatever they call them.
Yep. Yeah. Well, again, but I mean, these were when we started, I mean, these were pegs and axles. That's all it was. It wasn't anything more than that,
I wish I would have realized that we could have marketing conversations about BMX like 2 hours ago.
Well, we're going to fix BMX right here, right now.
Let's go. I've been trying, man.
I know you've been trying.
Because it feels like if there is anybody else thinking about this, they're too busy keeping a company going to actually be able to do it. And the other problem is that anyone who would try to figure out how to help things, it does work at a company, isn't going to help their competitors.
Yeah.
So it's got to be this outside thing.
No. I mean, there's always in the industry, there's always been a very scarcity mindset. Whereas, if they don't buy my frame, they're going to buy somebody else's frame, or they're, like, I got to protect what's mine. And, and that's why people freak out when people like leave companies and don't, whatever, like, it's a whole scarcity mindset thing. It's an insecurity that,
I get it. I totally get where that would come from, but I have the mindset that if everybody, can't say everybody, if people figured out how to grow the whole thing, then you have less scarcity in general because you got more people to buy it.
Yeah, for sure. But that's, I said, you can't grow it unless you expand the market. And so if right now the market is other riders, that's it. That's all you got. Like, unless you can expand it to other people who would have interest in partaking into this sport, or watching this sport, or getting involved in the sport, then no. But right now, like, there's people actively trying to block that from happening. But then at the same time, they're complaining about there's no money in the sport and nobody's doing anything and stuff. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy,
Yep. Shooting.
But eventually, like I said, eventually there will be another Tony Hawk or a Mira or Hoffman or something that'll show up in, like, have a better understanding of brand and things like that,
I think so, and I hope so. And
yeah, it'll happen.
I'm curious, did you make it to the part of that where I talked about endemic and non-endemic stuff?
That sounds familiar.
I just talked about the concept of if we can't even figure out how to like fully make returns whenever a BMX company invests in a rider, how are we ever going to get a non-endemic company to want to stick around? Like everybody gets mad.
I did listen to that part. That's what made me think about, but those companies are, again, not going to be interested unless you're bringing in their target demographic. You know what I mean? Like Bagel Bites with Tony Hawk. Like he was bringing in the exact audience that Bagel Bites wanted. He made a shit ton of money from selling Bagel Bites, TV commercials and stuff. But if there was no Tony Hawk video game and there was no Tony Hawk 900, none of that would have been a thing.
Yeah, and I guess the point I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on it, and the point I tried to drive at is like it starts at the bottom. When the rider understands their value and how they can help a company, then they understand business and marketing and all of that. Then that can eventually, if more and more people build on that, then we could get to a point where, all right, maybe we do have another video game because people understood the value of things to build to it.
Yeah. Right. Well, exactly. Right. But again, like you've got to have a plan. You got to be strategic.
Good luck.
You can't just toss shit at the wind and like hope it fits, right? But again, like you got to play to your audiences, right? Like look at motocross, like BMX motocross and motocross. Mm-hmm. They still all wear uniforms. Why do they all wear uniforms?
Oh my God! So that's something we got to talk about. Yes.
But again, why do they wear the uniforms? Well,
sponsors, people who know who they are.
It's sponsors, but it's literally a uniform. Which why do uniforms exist in the world? To put something on to tell somebody who you are. Like I'm wearing a police uniform. I'm wearing a firefighter's uniform. I'm wearing, you know what I mean? I'm wearing a doctor's uniform or whatever. It tells you who I am, right? And so that's a way of communication to the people who are watching and paying attention to this. So I know what uniform you're in, and that's the uniform I like. I like that uniform. So I'm rooting for you in that stuff, right? But again, like motocross is how many laps do they do in motocross now? It's
minutes. It's so many minutes of a moto, and then this many laps after that till the end.
Right. So it's basically a bunch of dudes just kind of going around in circles, right? And sure, it's cool and whatever, like, but it's, there's not a lot of exciting stuff that happens there, right?
At the beginning and at the end.
In BMX, like the guy who gets out of the gate is probably going to win. So by the first turn, the race is probably over. You know what I mean? So why do people get into it and stick with it, right? Well, because of the drama that can happen anywhere from there to the end. Mm-hmm. It's like gambling. You know what I mean? It's like, well, that guy could slip a pedal, or that guy's bike could take a shit halfway through it, and then boom, he's upset, and then wow, that's a big story. And
so to go back to the uniform thing.
But again, if they weren't wearing uniforms, I wouldn't know who they were, because they're all piled together like a big mash of individuals. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I can't watch my guy or gal.
So in the freestyle park side of things, a lot of people have started wearing their country's like uniform again.
Yeah.
But and here's where we probably already lost the street and non-competitive people. But here's where you got to make the connection is if you ride for a company, don't get a frame from them and then rip all the stickers off and paint it a different color the day you get it, because that is your uniform.
No, but okay. So let's be clear. Let's back up for a second. Like competitions is what makes it a sport. Yeah. You don't have competitions. It's a hobby. Like that's the bottom line. Okay. Like model trains is a hobby. Lego has competitions. Lego is a sport now. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you got to have competitions to make it a sport. Otherwise, don't call it a sport. Just call it a hobby. and this is our hobby thing that we do, and we have some fun with it, you know, like
A lot of people do call it a hobby.
yeah, and that's fine. That's good for them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But again, like people like you and me who have been more part of the industry in some fashion, you know, to us, we could see a lot of opportunity out there if people understood, like if we treated it and we, just like you were saying, if we took some hints from other places and we could bring some more value into the sport so people could ride longer, so more people could have, so bike prices maybe could come down some, or be more accessible to people, right? Because that's the thing. When BMX is doing really well, guess what? Bike prices hit the floor, and then you get even more riders involved.
Economies of scale.
It is economies of scale, right? So back in when freestyle and whatever was dying, and it was starting to come back up, we were selling the most expensive frame and fork out there by 150 to 200 bucks. And people were like, you are crazy. Like bike shops would be like, I am not buying this because nobody's going to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, no, they will buy the best thing. Like people will buy a Lamborghini or they'll buy a Corvette. Like, so we're giving you the high end thing. Like there's a place in the sport for a high end bike, you know?
Yeah.
So, but people at the time were like, they're looking at the greasy kids coming in and, you know, buying another axle that broke for the 5th time that week. And they're like, no, nobody's buying an expensive frame and fork. Well, guess what? They did. They did. And then because of that, then you were able to start dropping prices on other things. So, so the sport became even more accessible.
Yeah.
Over time.
That makes sense. And just to finish the thought on the whole uniform, stickers, whatever thing, a lot of people left some comments about how people...
Are we actually recording?
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought we might be, but I wasn't sure.
Oh, yeah. We've been going for like a while.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. Since the Cheerios.
Okay. Well, nobody's texted me and said, shut your mouth. So that's good.
Yeah. But I got comments saying how it went from people wearing uniforms in BMX to people then taking all the stickers off their bikes and spray painting them and not wearing their sponsors' clothing and all of these different things. And I had never even thought about that as an aspect of this thing. But at this point in BMX, there's a lot of people who you look at their bike and look at what they're wearing when they ride. And you're like, are you even like proud to ride for a company and get paid?
No.
Like that's...
No, but again, like, you know, like a couple of people I see these days, like a Dennis Anderson, like he's great. Like he represents the Haro. If he could just stay healthy for 5 minutes, like he could be a next, you know, Mira type person, in my opinion, you know.
I think he could be.
But again, like, but he, you know, when you see his bike, you know, it's a Haro because it has a Haro sticker on it.
Yes. It's the same. It's the stickers that come on it from Haro. And I've always been that way where like, if I get a frame from a company, like I've never painted a frame that I've ever had. And I get wanting to make it yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get all of that. But like at the same time, if you get paid by a company to ride a bike,
not even paid. Like if you just get the bike for free, keep the stickers on. Like I remember me and Rick would get so pissed when people would take their stickers off their bike. We're like, we gave you the bike, keep the sticker. Like let people know. They're like, people aren't stupid. They know what bike it is. I'm like, no, that's not the point.
It's definitely not the point.
Like the point is that the name is getting out there to not just the people who know what the frame is. So we gave you the frame to represent. And so keep the damn stickers on. And I remember like resending out stickers to people because I'd be like, can you just keep the stickers on? You know, like even guys who had a signature frame, they take the stickers on. I'm like, what are you doing? Like it's literally your signature bike.
That's one thing that always gets me about BMX today too, is that you have people who have a signature frame and then don't, or it'll come out in a colorway and they don't ride it in that colorway.
But the problem is like everybody around them is a little jealous of them. So they give them shit and they're like, oh, a little try hard and blah, blah, blah. And so they take that to heart. And then they're like, oh, my bros are telling me I'm getting a big head and stuff. You know, because that happened to me in my riding career. Like when I was when I was really leaning into a lot of backwards stuff and whatever else, right? And I was doing bigger and bigger tricks. Like I had people around me that were like, "Oh, show off," and I'm like, "No, I'm trying to learn something new here. I'm trying to do something new."
Right.
And they'd be like, "This ain't a contest." And I'm like, what? No, this is how I ride. What? Like, and so I would literally, when I would ride around, I would tone it down.
That's so
when I
dumb.
would ride around these guys, because I worried that if I like really like let off a couple of things, because that, you know how it gets, right? Like when you're really like amped up and you really want to like throw down, but you couldn't, because all your friends would give you a bunch of crap and be like, "What are you doing? Like, this ain't a show. This ain't a contest." And at the time, like I didn't have the mental facilities to deal with it. You know, I was like, okay, sorry, I'll just go back to doing some tail whip nose picks and stuff.
Yeah, I'll just tone myself down because I'm better than you.
Well, it wasn't even about that. It was just like it wasn't even that I'm better than that. I was just doing tricks. They did tricks I couldn't do, and I was doing tricks that they couldn't do. So just like any, you know what I mean? Like,
that blows my mind, because when I see that today, I feel like most people are stoked. There's probably people who are feeling like what you're saying, but they won't say anything anymore.
Yeah.
Most of the time, people these days are pumped when that's happening.
I feel like that. Because it might have been just the environment I was in back in those days, but because when I went to other places, people didn't react like that. That's like when I got to travel to Germany for a contest in England, like the chains were off. I could just go back to back to back. Like I could do whatever I want. And like everybody was stoked. Nobody gave me shit for like doing really hard stuff.
It's so crazy to imagine that someone would be so like jealous and insecure that they'd be like, "Hey man, this isn't a contest. You're making me look bad."
Yeah. They just give you shit, like, you know, like you're showing off. And I'm like, I'm literally on a BMX bike at a skate park. What do you think I'm doing here?
Yeah.
like I'm here to show off. That is what I'm doing.
Wow.
Like, just, you know, but at the time, like I said, like it wasn't, you know, you had other guys around you that were cool, you know, and so you wanted them to think you were cool, and so if you were showing off, then you weren't being cool, you know. So you had to tone it down.
I'm just thinking of all those times in my life where I was looking at someone doing something crazy who was more than likely older than me, definitely better than me. I looked at that, and that made me go harder, because I just wanted. Most of the time, it was like at my local skate park, and everyone was 4 years or more older than my generation of people. And it was never even a thought that like, oh my God, they're showing off, or oh my God, they're way better than me. It was just, they're here, I'm here, we're riding together. I'm just trying the same stuff they're trying because we're together.
Yeah. But again, like you weren't there specifically to make sure that you were, because some people would show up to be like, where am I at on the playing field? Like how level, you know what I mean? Like they were there to judge kind of their level, they weren't there to
just progress and have fun.
No, I mean they might have been, but their way of progression was really to kind of like, you know, maybe add some chains to other people to hold them back a little bit, you know.
That's weird.
So that then they could move forward. So, but again, like, you know, that was a weird, I mean, that's one of literally the reasons why I just stopped riding for a long time.
I was actually wanted to ask you if it was a conscious decision to focus less on riding.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yep, 100%. It just wasn't healthy anymore, you know, because it would either be I'd go to these places and people would, you know, kind of shout you down a little bit and be like, "Hey, it's not a contest, chill out," you know. Or you go and just everybody would stop riding. And then you just be riding by yourself because everybody's waiting for you to put on a show or something, you know? And so at that time, I didn't have like ramps in my yard or, anything. I always had to go to somebody else's place to ride, you know? And anytime I'd go to somebody else's place to ride, there'd be a bunch of people there. And then after about 2 or 3 runs, I'd notice that only 1 or 2 other guys was maybe taking runs anymore, you know, and everybody else was just kind of watching what was going on, you know? And so like the vibe wasn't there and whatever, you know, and I didn't have the means at that time to like be like, all right, well, I'm getting in my car and driving to, you know, Oklahoma to ride with Hoffman or you know, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I was trying to go to school and stuff. And so I was like, you know what? Like, it just doesn't make me feel good anymore to be like a rider in front of other people.
Yeah.
Like, I like bike riding and I still do, but I do not like riding in front of people. Like, and that was the end of it.
I gotcha.
So no more showing off.
Fair enough. So where did that focus get shifted to then?
Yeah, well, with bike, you know, with standard, you know, I was kind of the artsy guy, so I really got into design and the computer stuff. I did a lot of the advertisements, I did a lot of the logos and T-shirts. You know, I did the stickers, I did all the standard stuff. You know, so I designed all of those things. I even relaunched some old designs too on a Teespring site.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah. So like, I resurrected some old and some standard designs that I never released before. But yeah, I just got really into that. So I wanted to, you know, it became a new challenge. Like, how could I, so I got into that. I went to school for design. And then while I was there, the internet was becoming a bigger and bigger thing, websites. And I was like, oh, wait, I don't have to print stuff and like do registration and print. I don't have to print like 4 plates of CMYK so people can see what I'm making. I can just like hit upload and boom, people could see it. Like, that got really exciting for me. So that's what got me. It was just kind of this downturn into technology, you know.
I'm super intrigued to hear about the programs at that point in time. Like, what are you using to design stuff when you first start doing it on computers?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. I mean, you were just learning HTML. You were just sitting, typing out code, you know,
To like do website stuff?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
what about like design stuff?
Yeah. I mean, we had Photoshop and stuff, but Photoshop was weird because like you couldn't export stuff small enough in some cases to like go on a website. Because back then, like if you loaded anything more than like a 5K image, you were like, it was going to take a year to appear on somebody's site.
Yeah.
So like, you know, learning file management, and because that was the cool thing is like, I think that's what and other things are like this too. You probably found this in life as well, which is like, well, I want to do this thing, but in order to do this thing, I have to learn all these other branches of stuff that I had no idea were below the tree line. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, one of those branches, you're like, ooh, I'm going to follow that now. And that's going to be like my career. And that's kind of what ended up happening with me.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
What's the first version of Photoshop that you used look like?
Oh, it didn't have a number.
Oh, it didn't have a number yet. It was just Photoshop.
It's just Photoshop.
Holy cow.
It didn't have a version number, man. I'm old.
I don't know, knowing what it does now and thinking back, because the first version of Photoshop I ever used was CS3.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. I was well into my career when that stuff came out. No, back then it was because it was made for print. You know, there was no, you know, and it wasn't even CS3 wasn't really web friendly either. You know, like it wasn't until like CS5 that they started to really take web stuff seriously.
Wow, man, this is so cool.
Yeah, because like eventually, like years later, you know, the company I'm working for, like here I am, I'm sitting here, and we're launching the site for the first Hunger Games movie for Lionsgate, you know. So like we worked with a design agency, we built the site, we optimized it, It was supposed to come out at the same time with Internet Explorer 11, maybe, and so, but they had issues with JavaScript loading within the browser. So, like, my team was on the phone with Microsoft's Internet Explorer people trying to work out these bugs and kinks because Lionsgate and the movie director were freaking out because the site wasn't working and the movie launch is happening and stuff. I remember like driving home going, what the hell am I doing?
Wow.
Like, this is my life, like, but there was so much during that time where I didn't talk about my bike riding and stuff, with other people. Like, nobody knew I was a ex-pro bike rider around me. I kept it hidden because I thought nobody would take me seriously, and that took me years to get over.
Well,
years and years and years to get over is to and then people would find out and they'd be like, what, you used to race bikes? And I was like, no, it's called freestyle. And they're like, what? But then, I just say X Games and they'd be like, oh yeah, like
that is so
people
funny.
still find out I'm less cagey about it these days. I've started to embrace it more because I had a good mentor a long time ago say, like, hey man, you got to lean into this stuff. Like, whatever is a differentiator for you, like, you should lean into. Like, it shows your commitment to things, it shows your dedication to things, it shows your ability to be resilient, all this stuff. And I was like, oh shit, like, oh man, I should have been so embarrassed about it early on. I thought nobody would take some guy who wrote little kids bikes, because again, right, like, I'm in my 20s and you still get people yelling at you on the street, like, nice kid's bike, and blah, blah, you know what I mean? And so I thought, like, entering the corporate world, they were going to do the same thing, like, it'd be like drive-by people,
That's
but
funny.
I was stupid. It was dumb. It was a bad decision on my part.
Well, what you learn is that the people who are yelling that out the window aren't people who have the ability to end up in the corporate world anyways, and that the people in the corporate world are like, wait a minute, you do what?
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because the people who end up in those positions are the people who, instead of going into the room and talking about themselves the entire time, they're listening and they want to learn about you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then again, like I said, like, it got me into leading teams, and then that, that experience got me into coaching more people, and then that got me started writing books, and then now, I'm running my own coaching business and writing books and stuff, and it's, doing a podcast and all this other shit. So it's great. I'm having a great time.
So isn't it amazing what BMX leads to?
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's so awesome.
It's awesome. And I attribute it all of my success to that because, I was a very insecure kid. I was very, I stayed at home a lot. I was fidgety. I was scared. I wasn't an extrovert by any, you know what I mean? Like, I like to stay in my basement, like playing with my Legos and shit. Like when I was like 7, like I didn't go outside and play and stuff. And I'm Gen X. Like, we grew up like playing in the woods. Like, that's what you did. I was just talking with another Gen Xer the other day. I'm like, you remember rope swings? He's like, oh my God, rope swings. I was like, that was such a thing when I was a kid. There'd be rope swings. You go out. Now there's no rope swings. People chop them down because, somebody killed themselves,
Dude, I had a vine swing.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, like, because we had property back in the woods, and my dad just cut off a vine, and
you were like Tarzan.
Eventually it broke.
It kind of goes with the hair now too. That's good. I like that.
Hey, that's my gimmick. It's what I lean into. It makes me.
I like it. We got to get you like in a leather loincloth thing, or maybe not. Maybe that's not a good idea.
That could be an ad.
Like, I was just so nervous and scared, and but when I got my first bike, like, it was all of a sudden this freedom. Like, I could go anywhere, I could do anything, and it was like a motocross bike, but it, was safer than a motocross bike. My dad wanted to get me like a motocross bike, but I was way too small and too skinny and just a little weakling kid, and because I didn't really start growing until I got into my teens, and now I'm 6'1", but back then I was just a little shit, so, But now it's like, all the resilience and the, getting back up. But here's the most important lesson I learned. And this is what served me to this day. It still serves me to this day. This is the most important lesson BMX has taught me, is giving myself permission to have the things that I want. So there was so many times in my life where I came across a milestone where I felt like I needed to ask permission for something I wanted. And like permission to be, to enter a contest, permission to turn pro, permission to start a bike company, permission to go to school for something I didn't know if that was the thing I should be going to. Like thanks to BMX, like I learned that I can give myself permission to have the things that I want, or to go after the things that I want. I do not need to seek out permission from other people. And that was huge for me.
Yeah. So before you realized that, when you're talking about seeking out permission, do you mean in terms of like, there's this thing you want to do and you go and ask a whole bunch of people and kind of feel out what they're saying before you?
Yep. Because what I would do is, like, before I would do stuff, as what a lot of people do, right? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. What do you think? What I'm doing in that respect is asking permission.
Yes.
Because what would happen is a lot of people, sometimes people be like, cool. And I'd be like, yeah, but do you mean like cool, like I should do it? Yeah. I would be thinking in my head, you know what I mean? And if they'd be like, oh no, that's a bad idea. And I'd be like, well, but I kind of like to do it anyways. And then you just shut up and you don't say anything, right? So again, either way, whether you got a positive or negative response, it didn't matter, because nobody's going to give you permission
right.
to do the things you want to do. But I was going throughout life in so many instances, man, where I was asking what do you think about this? What do you think? Should I do this? Should I, but riding taught me, that I didn't need to ask permission. I could just do what felt right. And like people then got excited about it, right? Because I was doing stuff like when I was doing backwards things, for example, right? Nobody else is doing that stuff. And I thought when I first was doing it, like I thought people would just make fun of me and be like, that's not real riding. That's like that's like foot plant stuff or something. You know what I mean? Like it's weird. You know what I mean? Like it's too weird. It's too out there. But I was like, I really enjoyed it. There were so many times where I really loved riding backwards more than I liked riding forward. And I would do it. I would do it all the time. And that's how I got good at it. But I remember like thinking like, I didn't go around and ask people like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this trick? Do you like it?
Yeah.
But we didn't do that back when we were riding. You know what I mean? Like we wouldn't ask somebody like, hey, do you like this? Do you like this trick I just did? Mm-hmm. Because people would just be like,
right.
They liked it. You know what I mean? But in life, people don't do that. When you're like, hey, I just rebuilt the carburetor on my power washer this weekend, which is something I did. Nobody clapped. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you. I'll be here all day. I don't know. Anyways, so that was the biggest thing. And so like when it came to like writing my first book and then writing the second book, like, I was like, who's asking for this?
Yeah.
And I would tell myself like, nobody's asking for this, so why are you doing it? Like the demons that come to you at night. Right.
Yeah.
So, but that was the biggest lesson BMX taught me.
It
giving myself permission.
Teaches you to have conviction in yourself.
Yeah.
So that you don't need that permission. And then when you have conviction in yourself, that conviction comes across as confidence to other people. And confidence is what draws people in to be a supporter of something that they see you doing like that.
Exactly.
And there you go.
Yep, exactly. And unless you can, again, like most of the people I coach, they're just in their own way. Everything they're doing is fine. It's just them that's in their own way. They just get in their own way. They get in and they say no for other people. That's something I used to do a lot, right? Like I wouldn't ask for something because I assumed that people would say no.
Ah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my dad taught me you get 100% of what you don't ask for, like when I was young. So why not ask? Because if you don't, you're going to make sure you're 100% chance of not getting it.
Right. Absolutely.
You know,
You should always ask.
Yeah, exactly. But again, like sometimes you have to ask this way and sometimes you have to ask this way, or sometimes you need to be here when you ask and sometimes you need to be there when you ask. It's timing matters, you know. That's how luck comes about, you know.
Luck favors the prepared one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because it's all about timing, luck.
Yep.
You know? So if the timing's right, then boom, you know, because you're prepared for it.
Yes, sir.
Are people yelling at me in the comments?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
I purposely did not pull up the thing so I can't see the comments because I'll get freaked out by it. But yeah, so go ahead.
I just laughed.
Oh, yeah, and like I said, I still got a bike. I still ride around and scare the neighbor kids, freak out the. I've got 3 boys, so I got to remind them, you know, who dad is. You know?
Right.
I've got a massive trophy wall out in the garage because we still got trophies back when I was riding, you know.
That's awesome.
And it's funny because like I have this giant trophy wall, and like I remember a couple of years ago I was like, man, I went on Twitter and I was like, hey, are there places that like recycle trophies? Because like I was like, I'm gonna get rid of these, you know. And I had a guy like flip out on me on Twitter. He's like, how dare you? Like he's like, you know how many people would love to be, you should be so proud of your accomplishments, and you're just gonna toss them out like trash. Like these are representative of like all, and he just went off, and I was like, okay, shit, oh, all right, like, okay. So I didn't get rid of them, and I just started displaying them because they just stayed in a box forever, you know. But it's like, again, that's another lesson I learned is take credit for your work.
Man, that's a big one that you have to learn. Yeah. I'm just now learning that in myself.
You got to take credit for your work, you know, but people are so worried like, oh, I don't want to seem like a tryhard. I don't want to seem like a bragger. You know, there's a difference between bragging and taking credit for your work.
Yes.
There's a difference. And you might not learn it. I mean, I didn't know the difference. I was an arrogant son of a bitch when I was in my early 20s doing standard and stuff. And I thought that the louder and more obnoxious and stuff I was, then people would take me more seriously, you know. But I learned, you know, over time that wasn't the best way to be.
Yeah.
You know, but luckily a lot of my friendships survived it. I didn't turn off too many people. You know, I just hung out with Dave Frymuth here a couple of weeks ago, and
nice.
You know, he was in town, and we hung out, got breakfast and lunch and stuff, and or breakfast brunch. That's it, brunch. That's what they call it.
Fancy.
Yeah. So, and it was cool hanging out with Dave. We shared so much of the same splinters and dirt in our life. You know,
that's really cool.
And he there's a guy that doesn't get enough credit for his contributions to the sport. You know.
I think he gets a lot, but you can never get a lot enough when you're someone like Dave.
Yeah. Like him and Asado, like they were like the next generation of like me and Rick and stuff. And like, it was just really fun to watch those guys go off, you know, like they took technical riding to the next level.
Yeah.
You know?
Go ahead.
I'd love to see technical riding come back in a big way, but
you and me both, man.
But people got to get them front brakes back on.
Yeah. Well,
too scared to ride a front brake.
Gotta get them to have back.
Calling you folks out.
All right. I have call outs in my notes too. Just one. Just one.
Yeah.
No, because the Miami Hopper to Bar got posted again recently.
Oh, yeah.
It did. Yeah. And it always makes people go crazy.
Yeah.
And it is crazy. It will always be crazy. I have one person in mind that I know could do that trick. Jake Calhoun. Do you know his name?
No.
He's 18 years old.
Okay.
He's doing whip to nose picks regularly.
Yep.
And he's learning like decade stuff, and he's incredible. He can bar spin really good. So
Should be able to do it, no problem.
He's got the front brakes. Yeah.
He should do it. Should you? And again, I think I posted even on a comment. I was like, you could. I did it foot jam too. Like you could do it foot jam. It's not there. You really don't need, when you're going back in, you don't need to have both feet on the pedals to stay stable. So, but I used to do nose wheelie, Miami hopper to bar spin in. I did tail whip to Miami hopper, bar spin in. Like it's not, once you get it, like you can chain it into other stuff. I did 360 over the spine, Miami hopper, bar spin in.
Jeez.
It's not like G. It's not G. It's just if you can do something in a nose pick, you can do it in a 360 nose pick. If you can do it in a 360 nose pick, you can do it in a 540 nose pick. Like it's just a matter of time. Like, so, that's the best thing I learned riding with Rick early on was like, if you could do it this way, you could do it 500 times that way. That's what was great about Rick's riding was that, because if he was like, oh, if I can do a tail whip and I can do a bubica, I can do a tail whip to a bubica. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like that was like a revelation or anything. You know what I mean? He'd be like, oh, it just makes sense. So to your point, like you're piecing it all together. That's how any new tricks come together. So
yeah, it's how I ride too. It's how all the type of stuff that I do gets connected and everything too. And I guess I should have thought about it that way because it makes total sense.
The one thing that you can't do is probably a Canadian nose pick, toboggan nose pick or Schmidt pick, whatever you want to call it.
Because the bar's sideways.
I had friends that they called it Schmidt pick. At least in Chicago, they called it Schmidt pick. Well, because if you're on coping, like the surface area that your tire is sticking to is half the size of what it would be in a normal nose pick. So you do a Canadian style, like it's.
Yeah, my buddy Trevor does really, really good XUp Canadians. Yeah. And he's done 3 tap to XUp Canadian on a spine.
That's awesome.
It's nuts watching him
crazy.
do that.
Yeah, well, and again, back to like the Osados and Dave's, like I wasn't a very good Canadian guy. Like I could do it on certain tricks, but not like those guys could. They could target the coping, so well. So that's why they were really good on like on the spines with like the
double coping
stairs. The what?
Stairs.
Well, like the rails.
Double coping.
Yeah, like no, like the extensions.
Oh, a hitching post.
Sure. Is that what they call it?
Like a ramp with a rail in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, we call it hitching post these days.
I think we just called them like extensions back in the day. Anyways.
Elevated
so guys,
spine.
What's that?
Elevated spine.
Yeah.
I've seen it called that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's another word for it. So they could ride those things like crazy because all that is mostly like you've got to be like right. Mm-hmm. You've got to hit a spot that's like 2 by 2 inches square.
Yep.
Or you're going down, and I wasn't that. I was technical, but I was not a sharpshooter like those guys are.
That makes sense.
I like watching those guys that are sharpshooters. You can see them when they're riding, is that they can touch any part of their wheel to exactly where it needs to touch, like Chase Hawk or whatever is a sharpshooter.
Tom Justice.
Yeah. They can aim their bike exactly, no matter what, how they take off or whatever, but they're coming exactly where they meant to land, and it's really rare to watch them bottom out. And if you watch videos and you'll see them, they look really shocked. Like this never happens.
Yeah. Well, you're aiming for one thing and you miss. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. They're like, what? Like, because it never happens to those guys. And those are the guys I love to watch ride because I was never that guy,
Yeah.
I wasn't a huckster, but I wasn't a style cat either. So I was somewhere in the middle,
So speaking on tricks from back then and talking about those eras, TJ Henderson has a question. Well, he asked if there was any wild front brake tricks or anything you did that were never documented.
Oh man, there's so many. Because I was the filmer.
He wants 20.
He wants 20.
He said there better be at least 20.
All right, let's see here.
No.
Yeah. Oh, there's more than 20. I couldn't think of them all right now. I'd have to.
Do you have
Anyways,
any examples off the top of your head?
well, I'd say there was a lot of backwards stuff too, like front wheel, backwards to front wheel stuff that never got documented. Because again, like I said, like I was mostly the filmer when it came to standard stuff. So like it was pretty rare when I got filmed, especially later in my career. Like as I reached like 23, 24, like it was pretty rare. Yeah, I don't know. I got to think about that. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. Like I mentioned earlier, like all the toboggan or whatever stuff, like nose wheelie, nose wheelie spine, 360 and tail, bar spin, all that stuff. Like
The 3 nose pick toboggan to bar.
Yeah.
That is insane. I can't even, like, what? My buddy Trevor can do those 360 nose pick toboggans on spines.
Yeah, then you tell him to toss the freaking bars. What's wrong with him?
He's not super confident with bar spins.
Yeah, well, I wasn't either.
Fair enough.
How do you get confident with bar spins? Like we didn't, back in my day, Brent, we didn't have them resis, and we had wood and concrete to greet our faces. That's what we had.
That's fair. That's why I don't do bar spins very often.
Just toss them. What's the worst that's going to happen? Well, I mean, I guess a lot of bad stuff could happen, but there was a ton of stuff that I did that never got documented. Every once in a while, like I'll find something and I'll post it to Instagram or whatever. Like I had like backward, like alley-oop backwards manual to bar spin a Bubika in, along a spine, like people were like, whoa, and I was like, yeah, that was like playing around stuff back then, like
that's wild.
Yeah.
Huh. When was
TJ's awesome. He's great. He's good. I enjoy. He should tell him to post more riding stuff.
Hear that, TJ? Post more riding stuff, please.
I haven't seen any good Instagram. Show us your bangers, TJ.
He's been posting a lot in his story when he rides.
Oh, does
but
he?
Not actual posting.
See, I'm Gen X. I'm a feed guy. I don't do the story stuff.
I get it. I love watching his stuff because you can see that he's a very mechanical type rider where his stories are the same trick like 10 times because you can tell he's just dialing it in and it's like
that's what makes like Rob Ridge's videos really good too. You can because he posts like him trying it like 18 times.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's fun to watch.
And you can see when TJ's posting these stories that it's like the halfway point to something else is coming.
Yep.
You can see he's just dialing in the entire process so that eventually he's just gonna do it all.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Yeah, tell TJ to hit me up. I'll give him my trick book.
Oh.
Learn it all. He can learn it all.
Hear that, TJ? So there's
so many tricks that we used to do. Like I just don't see any of them today. And again, like I get it, like some of it is very front brake focused, but even some of the stuff that's not, like I got really excited because Pat Casey was doing like backward flip or something, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's awesome. Like I hope he does like some other stuff, but it goes to a fucking flip. Like, come on, like,
Yeah, that's just where BMX is at.
Yeah.
And I think it'll all come full circle the way it always does.
Yeah.
Eventually.
I mean, that was an amazing trick that he did. Like no bullshit. Like it was probably one of the hardest tricks anybody's ever done on a bike in the history of BMX.
Oh yeah.
But again, it's like I yearn for like more progression you know, but it's still like, I enjoy watching stuff, but again, it's like, you know, I feel like I'm kind of watching a East Coast destruction video from 1992. You know, some Feebles, a Smith grind, a railing, you know, like it's cool, you know.
I'm trying to bring the brakes back.
Yeah.
Trying to help.
Yeah. Need some brakes. It's fine. It's what bikes are built with brakes. It's fine, you know.
And
but again, like I get it. Like if people, you know, if our bikes weren't as heavy as they were back in the day, it would have made a lot of tricks a lot easier. But also we wouldn't have had as extended of riding time to learn those tricks as we did without the bikes being built that tough. Because we were, you know, we'd ride 8, 10, 12 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was it. We would only stop to eat and poop. Literally.
Yeah.
Like back at Rampage days, every day. Didn't matter if it was snowing, raining, whatever. Like you'd wake up, you go to the park, you ride, you stop, you eat something, you go, you ride, and then when it's dark, the lights come on. And then when everybody else is kind of done, you're done.
Yeah.
But there was times like like I came up with this idea for a trick that in my head. And so I went down there at like 3 a.m. and I was like, I bet you could jump over a spine, land an ice pick, and then fakie out. Or jump over a spine, land an ice pick, and jump back over. And I did it. And that was the first time anybody's ever done it.
Well, thank you, because I love doing that trick. And I actually, well, hang on a second, because that led to everything that led up to me doing the 270 over lawnmower ice to back over.
Yeah. I like your lawnmower stuff. That's fun to watch.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to do that trick.
Yeah. No, it was cool because then like the next morning I came down, you know, later than most of the guys. And I was like, hey, check this out, you know, and within like, I don't know, a couple of hours, a bunch of other dudes were doing it. And it, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it was just super cool to be like, and then, so we started trying different things like, oh, I bet I could jump over ice pick and then fakie back over. And like, and so like in a day, like I had invented like 6 or 7 variations of that, you know, like right there.
And had you have not had the facilities to be able to just go there at 3 o'clock in the morning when you had that idea, you may have completely even forgot about it by the time you got to ride again.
Yeah. Or something, or yeah, exactly. But again, like, you know, somebody would have invented it at some point, but at the time, like spines were for jumping, and only for the most part, us and a couple of guys in Chicago were using spines as platforms. You know what I mean? Most people were just jumping them, you know.
I was a little disappointed at the Feast Spine Mini contest that just happened because it was a jumping contest.
Oh, it's a half pipe contest. I don't even know why they call it a spine or a mini ramp. Like it's a half pipe contest now. It's like, it should be just like the old King of Vert stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I realized too that Feast is like open invite, so I can't be bummed that the people who showed up didn't do lip tricks.
Yeah, sure.
Like if it was a invite only and that's what happened, like, oh man, that sucks. They didn't invite anyone who would do it. But it was just like, no, just nobody showed up and did one.
It's funny because like I remember like mini ramp, like when I was riding, like people would give people crap for doing airs.
That's so funny.
Like they literally would be like, "This ain't a half pipe, dude."
It's a spine mini. You can't jump it. What do you?
Yeah, like people who are doing airs on a mini, like they were shouted down. Like it was like, "What are you doing? Like go to the vert ramp," you know?
Wow.
Like, yeah. Well, again, like these ramps weren't the most solid thing, so people jumping them like that. You know, you were just beating up your ramp that you spent $5,000 building, you know?
Okay. That's fair.
So, you know, people would get pissed, you know, like, hey, what are you doing? Like, just ride it the way it's supposed to be ridden, you know?
So, when's the last time you rode? At all?
Well, what do you mean when you say ride? Like, give me more specifics.
I want you to determine that. Like, when's the last time you rode at all?
Probably a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Has your bike changed at all since the last one of these we've did?
I got a new coaster brake setup.
Whoa.
Yep, that's pretty rad.
Is it modern, or did you find an old one?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember people's names. This is the part of getting older. But I had some dudes like help me source out something, and then I took it to a local bike shop, which they looked at me like I was from Mars. Like, I'm like, I want this hubs, I want you to lace it into this rim, but then we need to like attach the arm to this thing, and don't mess with this because it's welded, like the arm is welded, and like they looked at me like I was from outer space.
Except they'll have their Bluetooth shifter.
They got their Bluetooth e-bikes, right?
But you're from outer space because you're using mechanical technology.
But they were cool. They did a good job. I love going to those bike shops because they have no idea who I am or anything. They're like some weird gray-haired guy come in here and ask for a coaster brake on a BMX on a Sunday bike,
Yeah.
So anyways, I got that done late last year. And so, I mean, I've ridden like little street around the neighborhood, but there's a little public park not far away that I've tooled around on. But just screwing around, been skateboarding some too.
Nice. Having fun?
Having fun.
Hell yeah.
I like skateboarding. That's what I wanted to be early on, was a skateboarder, but I was not good at it. I was a way better biker.
I always felt like if I tried to actually skate, that would be how I would get like majorly hurt.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Well, what I didn't realize is like the problem with biking, why you get more hurt biking than skating, is because you've got the bike to deal with, because you land on the bike or the bike lands on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like if your skateboard hits you and stuff, it's like, oh, but if you get hit by, 20-pound piece of metal after you hit the ground, like you're going to get messed up, You
shouldn't have crashed at that point.
Yeah.
Because it's coming for you.
Well, you know what? Why you crashed? Because you were trying too hard, man. Because you're showing off.
I can't believe you thought that this was a freaking contest.
I thought, this ain't a contest, bro. Like, what are you doing? Calm down,
Oh God.
Oh. We're not filming. We're not grabbing edits today, bro. Just,
People, I don't think, would act like that today, because people go to the skate park and spend 3 hours on one Instagram clip now.
Right. They're just trying to get one clip. Yeah.
That culture also. So it's weird to me, but I feel like I'm not allowed to be weirded out by it because of how much I film. But it's like, I film because I've always filmed, and because that's like, it's literally a part of who I am.
Yeah. You're documenting. Yeah.
Not necessarily like I'm on my mission to get my Instagram clip.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you never know. Maybe it starts somewhere. But for us, like, it was always storytelling, right? Because if you look at like, and this is why everybody loves the old videos and they talk about Dorkin and York and, all these things, because there's a narrative there. There's a bit of a story there that goes along with them, And then plus at the time you had magazines that added to the lore of everything.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the best, because magazines would add to the lore of stuff, right? They'd have a little snippet about like Ron Wilkerson just got a new, crotch rocket and went over 180 miles an hour on Santa Monica Boulevard or something. And you'd be like, wow, that's so cool, dude. Wilkerson's so cool. You know what I mean? Like they'd have little snippets. And so this lore around who these people were, and they got built up to be way bigger than they were, which is cool. Right.
Yeah.
But now like with Instagram and stuff, like it's like a stage production. Like you've got to, you really got to set up stuff. That's why you see so many, not as much, but you see like people renting like cars and jets and stuff to make it look like they're cooler than they
I think
are.
I think we had that era, and then people figured it out.
Yeah, yeah, internet sleuths.
Yeah, we're like, wait a minute, you don't own a Lambo.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not your house.
Yeah. No, I think the next Instagram I'm going to start is just when I see spots that I think would be awesome, is just to geotag them on Instagram and be like, somebody should go here and do this trick on this and that.
That'd be awesome.
I see that every day. Every day I'm out, I'm like, oh man, what you could do on that spot.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be fun.
So what was I about to say?
TJ got any more questions?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Okay, good.
He was messaging me.
Tell him to get back to riding. Stop asking questions.
I'm gonna check again. Nope. No, not there.
No text messages from Chad to group?
Nope, not right now.
Okay, good.
Tell me about your book.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the new book?
Yeah, I'm gonna shrink you a little bit. I'm gonna reveal the book behind you. There it is.
The book. Yeah. So this book took me about 3 years to write. Just came out on May 15th. So the whole idea of it is sort of this idea of like self-help and productivity mashed together. So I've run this sort of framework in my life since I was a bike rider. So it's 10 years, 10 months, 10 weeks is basically the idea of it. So 10 years from now, I sort of design like what sort of life do I want to be living in detail, right? Like, where do I wake up? What does it smell like? Like, what am I eating? What am I doing for money? Who am I surrounded with? What's the temperature like? All these things. And then I pick out certain things in there that are catalysts for those things to happen. And then I go to 10 months and I create milestones that I'm trying to achieve in 10 months that show me I'm on the path to that 10-year goal, right? And then I take 10 weeks and I block it up and I say, I'm going to research, educate, or network into a spot that helps me achieve that milestone. So I'll give you a couple like real world examples. So for me, for example, like I wanted to get paid to speak, right? That was one of my goals, was in 10 years, part of my income will come from speaking engagements, So I went back 10 months and I said, okay, my 10-month goal will be at my first paid speaking gig. And so I spent 10 weeks reaching out to people who get paid to speak. So like on LinkedIn mostly, right? I would be like, hey, I'm interested in this. How'd you get started in it? Would you have 5 minutes? Like, I'd love to talk to you. A bunch of people got back to me. And what I found out was my 10-month goal was wrong. All these people were authors. And I was like, okay, so in 10 months, I should have my first book written if I want to be a paid speaker. So that's a small example of like how this framework can help you sort of aim yourself in the right way to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And it's a similar frame. There's nothing in here that's revolutionary other than the fact of how important this framework is in sharing with the people around you who support you, to letting them know why you're doing the things you're doing and making the choices that you're making, because they understand, they've seen your plan, where you're trying to go. Yeah. And so it's been not only really great for me personally to have clarity on where I want to go and what I want to do in my life, but it's also given my wife, for example, like real insight to why am I making the choices I'm doing? Why am I going to this event, or why am I going to that event? Why am I meeting with this person or whatever? Like, there isn't really discussions around it because she knows that I'm doing these things. And then when she sees opportunities, or the people that are in my close-knit community around me see opportunities that match with my plan, guess who's top of mind with them? Me. So it's this whole idea of using this framework in a very particular way to work towards those goals. And so I'm also starting a cohort mastermind groups around this as well, where people can join, and it's just like, a regular monthly meeting type thing. And we work towards those goals, and I facilitate the groups, and it's super fun. So I'm really excited about it.
So the book is kind of like teaching you how to do these things, not necessarily like you're documenting of the process of what you actually did.
No, it's literally tactical. That's why I say it's not self-help book. It's self-help and productivity, because it teaches you like the different things you need to do in order to achieve those different 10 milestones, those milestones at 10. And I'm talking about it in the book, because what ends up happening too sometimes is it ends up being 10, 3, 5.
Yeah. Right.
But that doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is that we put a stake in the ground and we say, this is where we're going and this is what we're doing.
Well, it kind of sounds like you've made a more, what's the word I want to use? Made a more like, I don't want to say realistic or understandable version of like you've made a tangible way to interpret a vision board.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So people
a blueprint for a vision board for someone to actually like do it.
Yep. So somebody mentioned this early on that I was coaching around this. They were like, "Oh, this is like vision casting," and I was like, "Yes, but this is a blueprint for achieving the vision casting you're actually doing."
Yes.
Right? So yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Is that it is like we come up with this mood board, this area. But then how do we actually move the needle to get to that point? And so in my book, I talk through all the different tactics. I also share stories of people I've coached over the years, like this one woman that I coached that was really wanted to become, have her own fashion brand. And she was like a nurse and whatever, but she wanted to create a fashion brand and all this stuff. And I describe her story as she goes through this process and all the things and the twists and turns, and how she ends up becoming really enthralled with fashion journalism. But she would have, again, goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where you got the tree you're looking at, but you don't know some of those branches might be way more interesting for you. And until you start to dig below the tree line, you're never going to see that these other possibilities exist. So the goal of this is during that 10 weeks, you start to uncover those potential tree branches. And then you can decide, is that 10-month milestone, is that a tree branch I want to follow or not, And so, I've got people that are running multiple versions of this. And again, the idea of the 10 years, it's a rolling 10 years. You never achieve the 10-year, you know what I mean? Like it just keeps moving ahead. You always keep moving the goalpost. So.
Right. And you're going to hit some of them quicker, some of them longer. It's just,
exactly.
It's the idea of creating that mindset in your head.
Yeah.
To be able to make that long-term goal, then figure out the small different stepping milestones, your word, to get there.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's tons of books out. I read so much. I read like crazy. And I've read all the books like on mindset and business stuff, and I love the Gary V's and the Alex Hormozis and all the different people of the world that tell you, but if you look under the hood of some of these folks, there's nothing tactical there. You're like, it's all about like, just be positive and shit.
Quit your job.
Quit your job. Like things will work out. Or, you're just not thinking about it the right way. And it's like, yeah, but then what do I do? Like, what do I do right now? And that's why I wrote this book. Because that's what I found with a lot of people, is that the fear of failure is so strong with folks that it'll stop them before they even start.
Yes. So
this framework allows you to overcome the fear of failure by going through a research and discovery phase without committing to that larger dream until you become more educated and knowledgeable in it.
Yeah.
And then you've got a good idea of, in the book, I teach you how to do that. You know what I mean? But in other books, it's like, and again, I said, like, I read them all before, like, it's like, go out and do your research. Okay. What do I do? Like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Like I've never done research before. I'm a bike mechanic in Ohio,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what that means. So I tried to put it together, like I said, like a very way to create a tactical plan. And the real unlock here, like I said, none of that stuff is anything revolutionary. It's all bits and pieces I've learned from different books and frameworks over the years that I put together for my own. But the key unlock, like I said, is how do I then bring in and build a community around these goals with me that can help me get to that spot.
Man, that's a really cool concept. And
Thanks.
I think that if you could figure out how to get it beside the vision board books, like get that, be like, all right, guys, vision boards are great and everything, but you need
Amazon stuffed it. Amazon stuffed it in the work-life balance section, which isn't, it's not wrong, but
So how does,
is
this like, is there a lot of people that are looking for these types of books out there?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cause first of all, there's so many people out there that just don't know what they want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do I want? Like, I was like that years and years ago. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm working for what? To retire?
Right.
And then what?
Right.
What am I doing any of this stuff for? What is the point of any of this stuff? And you have this existential crisis, right? If you're like, oh shit, like I'm doing a job and I got the 2.5 kids, I've got the wife, I got the mortgage. What am I doing all this stuff for? You know? Yeah. And then you hit 40 and all you've got is the 3 G's to look forward to as a man, which is grass, golf, and grilling. That's all you get is the 3 G's.
I hate all 3 of those things.
Yeah, well, but that's the majority of what most men have to look forward to.
3 G's and the B. You gotta add beer in there.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. And women go through they go through a midlife crisis just like men do as well. And so they are, then they're questioning like some of the choices that they made, right? Because women have inherently more choices than we do, which is great, right? They can be a stay-at-home person, right? And have a career. They can do both. They can do all the things, right? But sometimes that's a lot of emotional labor to take on. So then you hit your 40s and you're like, okay, now I'm starting to think about legacy. What am I going to leave behind? And then it even dawns on you, it hits you even harder of like, why did I do any of that? Why am I doing any of this? Yeah. So to me, like a book like this allows you to pick a point in the future that is dictated by you and not by fate.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense because if you have conversations with people, there's probably not a lot of people who are thinking 10-year plan or 10 years into the future at all.
I got, especially like younger generation when I was coaching with this book, the early millennials, Gen Z, they're like, I can't think 3 days out. You want me to think 10 years from now?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do. I do want you to think about it, but not in a Dave Ramsey, like save your money and stop having Starbucks and you'll be a millionaire sort of way. I want you to be thinking about this. What sort of space do you want to be in? What sort of mindset do you want to be in? Do you want to feel successful? Do you want to feel happy? Do you want to let's just start there. And then, okay, what are some of those things right now that make you feel that way? All right, let's start to unpeel those things and we peel and peel. Let's try focusing on this thing for a little while and see what happens, And then you start to move the needle. Because most people are not living an intentional life.
Right. They're just going through the motions, bopping
They're just
around.
Going through the motions, right? Because it's like, I got it, whatever the wife tells me to do, I got my honey-do list. And whatever the boss says, that's my value, blah, 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 blah. So all of a sudden you hit retirement and there's nobody there anymore. And I see this all the time when I'm coaching even retirees, right? They don't have a boss telling them that they're valuable anymore. And that's rough. Right.
Yeah.
But again, like they didn't plan for any of this stuff. They thought the companies take care of you and, that's why you work there. And
that's why BMX gets mad when corporate companies leave.
Yeah.
They're supposed to take care of us, even though.
What are you doing? Stop making crappy stuff too.
So when you go approach writing a book like this.
Yeah.
Is the name of it 10-10-10? Like short for short? Okay. When you approach writing a book like 10-10-10, what is your mindset for like the process of writing something like this? Do you start at the very beginning or are you taking a similar approach to the structure of the book itself where it's like there's sections to it and you might work on one bounce around? Like, how does this actually even work?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell you my book writing process, because for the first book I did very similar thing, the book writing process. About 70% of it is spoken. So I record myself coaching and doing the stuff, and then I take the transcriptions, and then I pull out chunks of the transcriptions and I dump them into separate Google Docs that are like, this goes in this chapter, this goes in the, oh, this actually is a chapter. That's a new document. And I grab the transcriptions from the calls, and then I just create this repository, and I do that for months and months and months, sometimes a year.
Yeah.
Where I'm just dumping, because I'll get off the phone call with you here, right? Or the chat with you here. And maybe I'm like, I said some stuff in there I want to hang on to. I had some, because I heard him say, oh, that's a really good idea, or I'm going to write that down. And so I think I try to capture that stuff. And then I grab that transcription and I dump it into like Google Docs, and then I just let it sit there. And then about a year later, like once these things are starting to build up, and I call this like sculpting, right? It's like making clay. Like I'm not sculpting anything yet, but I got to have lots of clay on hand in order to sculpt, right?
Yeah.
So I dump this all in, because I am not a person who can just pull up a blank document and just be like, and 7 years ago,
Oh yeah, I got it.
I can't do that. I need something to riff off of. And so all that stuff goes in there, and I immediately start going in and being like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Oh, that's good. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's good. And then those things start to inspire me. And then I start writing in those docs. And when I get bored of this doc, I switch over to another doc, and I'm like, oh yeah, this point. And then I do that for 2 years. Basically.
How long is that book?
This book is 31,000, almost 32,000 words.
And then that translates to,
I don't know.
I guess words is better to measure something than pages, because you could make more words on a page.
Well, it depends on how the book is formatted.
Yeah, I'm just curious, because now, like you saying all of this, I'm like, I kind of want to write a book.
Yeah, you should.
Because I have something that I've been trying to coach other people on for a couple of years now, and I'm like, man, almost makes sense.
That's 100. So this is the funny thing, because somebody said to me while I was coaching them on this, because I wasn't like walking around and being like, like an Instagram person, like, hey, finger guns, like, I know how to change your life. Boo, boo, boo. Like, because what most people do, what I found in this space early on, was that they created like an online course, and then they created things like books to get you to pay for like the very expensive course.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's backwards to me. Like, I wouldn't know what to make the course about until I got feedback from people on the book,
Yeah, right.
So in my mind, that's how it worked. So what I was doing is I was coaching people on this stuff. I was talking about this stuff. And then I had somebody that I really liked that was like, why aren't you turning this into a book?
Yeah.
And again, it's back to what I was saying earlier about giving yourself permission. This person kind of gave me permission to do it. And that was enough.
Yeah.
To really start me off on that. But I was really nervous, because this book is much more personal. Like, I tell much more personal stories in this one. I talk about my bike riding too in it a bit, and how it helped me sort of overcome a lot of things and stuff. So I wasn't comfortable putting that out as my first book. That's why this became the second book. So,
man, am I about to write a book?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be happy to talk you through it anytime.
Wow.
It's a great experience, but it's a long slog, man.
I don't have 3 years. I want it to be done next week.
Yeah.
I know.
I wish mine would have been, oh my God. I'll tell you, that's the problem with book writing, is it takes 2 to 5 times as long as you think it will take.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you just said about transcribing things kind of makes a lot of sense, and how you could make it way easier on yourself by just, all right, I know what I want to make a chapter on. I'm just going to say it, and transcribe it directly from that and then go in and edit it later.
Yeah, go in and edit. I can expand on it. I'll think about it differently. I'll have another conversation with somebody that'll give me another spin on it, and then I'll layer that in there. And
holy cow.
That's why I call it sculpting. Like, I'm not writing a book. I'm like slowly sculpting, a thing, like a physical thing over time. Yeah, no, I couldn't do like sit down and just, Stephen King it,
That's why I asked, because I was just sitting here thinking about that concept, and I was like, there's no way I could just sit here and start at a blank page and just start typing this out. There's no way.
I'm a BMXer. Okay. I'm not that bright. Like, I'm not some Einstein over here. Like, I need whatever tricks and hacks I can get to get me some of this stuff, done. So
that is awesome. So people can buy that book on Amazon. I already have it linked in the description, so easy to find it. Man, that's so interesting. And
link in bio, bro.
Link in the bio. Every time I hear bio, I think bayou.
Do you?
Like down on the bayou.
Whenever I hear bio, I think of bio air, like Brian Blyther, like a bio air.
Oh, that's funny.
Because I'm old.
Kurt, are you going to go to Cornhucket this year?
I'm going to try, yeah.
I think you don't have a choice because it's the last one.
I know.
And it is something to go to.
No, I would love to. I mean, I was all ready to go, and then I had family stuff come up that I just couldn't
get
happens. Around. So
that happens.
But I was, if you ask my wife, like my bags were packed. I even got a big jug of water, like a giant, like a jug of water as big as, I got one of those to bring with me.
Yeah.
Because you told me, like, stay hydrated. So I went out, I bought a big ass jug. I was ready to go, man. But so
hopefully
I have all that
we'll
stuff
see
now.
you there.
I had the hat with the umbrella.
Nice.
No,
there you go.
Yeah.
So when I was like looking up, because I was trying to figure out what your title was at Foundry for the title of this live stream. Because I at first I was gonna put CEO. Because I was like, CEO sounds really good. And then I looked it up because I was like, it can't be wrong. And I was just trying to find info, and I saw all these different things that you've done and like started and all this stuff. And I was also kind of curious to hear where your head was at when starting some of these things. Does it come from like the engineering perspective of seeing a problem, and then you have kind of a solution, and then you put the like start the gears turning to put something out there to solve these problems?
Early on it was like that, but more so nowadays, like, because I've spent so much time building a big network and an audience with like my podcast and the books and things, is that my audience now tells me like what problems do they need solved, and then I'll design solutions that help that. And that's kind of where this book came from, because the podcast, the podcast is, I'm at 265 episodes of the show. So I've gotten feedback over the last 7 years, and that's where this kind of book came out, because this is what the audience was kind of telling me they were interested in hearing more about,
Yeah.
And so in the beginning, it was very much like, ooh, that's a area. But just like anything else, once you start diving in, you're like, maybe it's a little off this way a bit, So like the agency that I've been running for the last few years, and to be clear, my title was president, but I'm also a part owner of the place. So we just took whatever titles made sense. So, and then I've started Schmidt Consulting, which I am the CEO of.
Oh, so I could have put it. Damn it.
You could put CEO. Yeah, I'm the CEO of Schmidt Consulting. Because we closing down the agency, but we're doing what we noticed with the agency, for example, is it was a design and development agency.
Yeah.
But what we realized over time was that development was becoming more and more commoditized. So we decided to just get rid of the development stuff and focus on design. And so we actually literally closed down the agency and are starting a new agency that is just focused on design. So again, yeah, it's kind of both ways, but I like the idea of that if you build an audience, they will tell you what they want from you.
Right.
But you have to ask. I mean, you have to ask in many different ways. You can't just ask once either. Like 7 times, 7 different ways.
That's super interesting. So what's this new Schmidt consulting? What are you consulting for?
Yeah. So I'm working a lot with it's business consulting and business coaching.
Okay.
So, I'm working with places that either want to scale or grow their companies from sales and marketing perspective, or make it more operationally streamlined, right? So anything from like one company I'm helping right now, like they need help with their project management. Their project management is not going well. They think it could be a software problem. Maybe they need to upgrade their software. Maybe it's the training. So I'm helping them with that. Another company I'm helping with just wants to be louder on LinkedIn and get more stuff around LinkedIn. So I'm coaching them on coming up with a plan for helping them grow their LinkedIn following and stuff like that. So,
is LinkedIn worth it for marketing and like having a following?
For B2B, it's the only place to
for
be.
B2B, but if you're trying to go B2C, does it make sense at all?
Only if you're going after like, C-level executives and vice presidents and things. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
More or if you're going B2C and you're selling like a recruiting tool or a resume help or career help or,
But not if you're selling products.
Yeah, products, no. I mean, again, unless it's a SaaS product that businesses use to sell to other businesses, then no.
Or what if it's I'm only asking this because we were literally talking about it yesterday with because we went on, I don't know if I've told you before, but I have a part-time thing where I run a YouTube channel for this farm tractor company. And we were literally talking yesterday because, it's a long story, but someone was telling him we should be on LinkedIn and posting stuff. And basically what he was thinking is that you post on LinkedIn to target farmers who are on LinkedIn to potentially have them buy the tractor and stuff.
Oh,
and I was like,
the farmers aren't going to be on LinkedIn, but but dealers and stuff.
Yeah, we don't go through dealers.
Distributors, dealers, those sorts of, people will be on LinkedIn, but I really doubt you're going to find a lot of farmers on active on LinkedIn. They'll be on LinkedIn, but I don't think they'll be active, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I guess it was. So what we were looking at was just getting a software for social media posting that just does it all instead of doing it manually, and then just having it as like the option.
Oh, sure.
Because why not at that point?
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely test it, but so LinkedIn is, you got to think, LinkedIn is not a social media site.
Yeah.
You gotta have a different mindset when you go to LinkedIn. And that's why a lot of people hate it and a lot of people love it. So the reason why is because it's not like Instagram and Facebook and all these others, because what LinkedIn is, you got to imagine a virtual business conference that's going on 24/7. And you've got all the booths, right? So you've been to like Interbike or something, right?
Yep.
So that is what LinkedIn is.
Yeah, I gotcha.
It's not a social media site.
I'm following.
So when you're going there and you're going through your feed, it's like you're walking through the hallways of the conference, And so everybody has their conference hat on when they're there, right? They've all got their lanyards on that says, "Hey, I'm Brant, blah blah blah," and I am Bill from, and so you've got your, you know what I mean? So but the problem with LinkedIn is that now you have to imagine the conference and all the booths are empty. Okay, because if you go to like a company webpage, everybody knows there's nobody there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just so that's why company pages don't work really well on LinkedIn, because everybody knows there's nobody hanging out there.
Yeah.
So that's why when you have a LinkedIn strategy, you want to focus on the founder, the CEO, and those people posting, because those are the people that people are interested in following and hanging out with. Nobody gives a crap about your company.
Interesting.
On LinkedIn, they are looking at the movers and shakers. They're not, and that isn't, companies aren't, they don't have a personality, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I get what you're saying now, and I'm understanding through what you're saying why the person who was telling other person that they should do stuff on LinkedIn is totally different, totally different structure to how they sell.
Yeah.
And how those things work, because we don't have to get into that.
Yeah.
Terry Adams just said, huge fan, Kurt.
Oh, Terry's so great. I watch all of his videos, and like, you know, if I could be at my age with a body like Terry Adams, holy shit, right?
I think Terry could help you get there.
Could he?
I think he could.
He is solid as a rock. And, you know, not that I'm into that sort of thing, but, you know, I mean, I can appreciate the amount of muscle or zero body fat that Terry has. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
His podcast that I did with him, if anybody's trying to learn how to be a real professional BMX rider in the professional sense of things, that's the one to listen to.
He is a true professional through and through.
For real. I was thinking about him after I did my industry talk, because I talked about how these companies don't stick around, but yet we've got Terry Adams for how many years sponsored by Raising Cane's? Like, study what he's doing to make it last, and then just do that, people.
Plus, he's Benjamin Buttoning for some, I don't know how that's important. He's like, he looks younger than most of these other guys do for some reason. I don't know what it is. He's Benjamin Buttoning. He's getting younger as he gets older. It's weird. It's really weird.
So what we're getting at, Terry, is that we're both huge fans of you too.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to do this again, and we'll just do the Terry Adams podcast where we talk about Terry and how awesome he is, like, we could do that. I could fill an hour. Yeah,
I think we should. I think we definitely should do another one of these and talk about BMX from a marketing business perspective.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I've got so many thoughts, man. I've got so many thoughts that maybe somebody would actually care about, but
I care about them, and I think that when people who are not directly associated with running a company like talk about these things, and actually are doing it with the intent of like, hey, I'm trying to help. Like, if you just pay attention, these things can help you.
Yeah, well, again, you got to realize when it comes to change, like, everybody loves change, but nobody wants your change. So the only way you can really make change happen, and this is what, and I do a lot of change management inside of organizations, and you got to make it their change.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's why people give up, because that's hard to do. And that's why people give up and just end up talking smack and moving on and not actually doing stuff, you know? And again, like, you know, you look at somebody like Elon Musk, which regardless of you think about him politics wise and whatever, but like when he was like, I'm going to, you know, start a spaceship company, like people were like, no, like NASA was like, no, whatever, sure, good luck. You know what I mean? Nobody was like telling him like, good job, and like, you can do this and make it, like, you know, but just sheer tenacity, you know, he made the change their change, you know. But it wasn't until he proved himself, until he got that first booster rocket to land on a platform by itself with nobody else touching it and be able to reuse that rocket, did anybody take him seriously. But it took him years and years and tons of money and tons of people to tell him it never would happen to do it. So that's why people don't do those things, because that's hard to do. People don't like that stuff. People don't like failing like that, man.
Yeah, you're right.
So, you know, that's why we celebrate the people that are the people that are putting themselves out there and doing those sorts of things. But, you know, you also make yourself a great target for throwing rocks at.
Yeah, except for in BMX. We don't celebrate those people in BMX because they're the ones putting themselves out there, and
you're just showing off, man.
Yeah. It's not a contest, dude.
It's not a contest. It's not a contest.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah. I like I said, I'm so grateful for everything that biking's given me, you know, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have opportunities for improvement. It had opportunities for improvement then. It'll have opportunities for improvement 100 years from now.
Yes,
So,
everything can always be better.
yeah, it can always be better. And but the thing is just, you know, you just try to move things forward. It's the people that are, you know, trying to build a walled garden with it that it just doesn't benefit other people like out
Well,
there.
that's
it benefits you.
That's
It
the
benefits
exact thing that exists in BMX that there's problems with, and I've been combating for years.
Yeah.
Because it's you see it, and it's so wild that, like, to someone like me or probably you, it's super obvious, and to people who you clue into, it's so obvious, but to everyone else, they have no idea. They just think that this is just how things are, and it's organically happening this way. It's like, it's really not. Like, this is an orchestrated thing, and you guys have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's top down too, because you look at the guys who started bike companies, the Mollers, Molitornos, who else? I mean, all
Morales.
People, right?
Why are they all M's?
It is all M's. It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy.
Whoa. And they're all MOs.
You look at all these guys, right? And we crush the things we love, right? You hug it to death. And so you look at these guys now and you can see they've got a 1,000-mile stare because this thing that they loved so much and they thought they would contribute and add to, they got shit on for years and years and years. And they had so many people fuck them over and shit on them and talk shit about them and say their stuff isn't good. And they're just like, how can you not be like dead inside after that about the whole thing?
And why would you want to be the one to help everyone else in that scenario?
No, because what's the point, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's why you saw a lot of people just give up, because it doesn't, unless you can move into a real business mindset and separate the two, right? And be like, oh, I can still, but then at that point, your riding is gone. Your anything you were doing, any trajectory you had as a great rider is coming down, because the focus has got to be on the business side. And then people will shit on you because you're not the great rider person anymore. And then you're like, oh my God, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? It just, it's such a terrible spot to be in. You see it happened a lot more with skateboarding, just because it was a bigger sport. You saw it over and over again with World Industries and Blind and Girl and all the people sort of stepping over, you know, let the bridges I light on fire light the way to my success, you know?
Right. Well, and what you're talking about with like being the focused business person, when you get to that point too, you also are realizing that I'm not going to help everyone else, because that can take away from what I'm doing, and I'm just going to use the knowledge I have to build on what I'm doing. Exactly.
And then you're at your 5th contest that year, and you're riding in practice because you don't compete anymore, because you just can't. And you're looking at everybody as if they are just handing their hand out, waiting for a free t-shirt.
And that's literally what everyone is doing in BMX. Yeah. And I'm here to save the day, damn it.
Yeah. You need a cape. You know, it'd be cool if it was like anime and you could turn your hair into like a cape. Like you would like shake it and it would like, like transform.
I thought you were going to say it turned glowing gold and I would get real jacked.
Cool. Yeah. You do some kind of, you know, kind of.
And just start yelling.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just Hulk out.
Oh, gosh.
All right. How long have we been talking?
We've been talking for 2 hours. Everybody, go buy Kurt's new book.
Nobody's watching this.
There's more people now than when we first started.
Is there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry.
10. Available now.
Yeah, sure. I got to schlock the book. Why not? Honestly, it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. It's the best thing I've ever produced.
Yeah.
Other than my awesome children. You know, but I don't take 100% credit for that. That was a 50-50 job.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm honestly, I'm really humble and proud of it. I think it can inspire a lot of people to get some more out of life.
Yeah.
It's helped me, and it's helped a lot of other people I've coached over the years. So maybe check it out. You know,
Definitely check it out. And the Schmidt list.
Schmidt List podcast. Yeah, Schmidt List. Talk
And
about all stuff, entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. So
within 2 or 3 years, Kurt's going to be announcing the Spy Mini contest at Carl's contest. And
you'll see me at FISA. I'll be up there.
yeah.
I'll be up there trying to learn French or something. You know. Oui. Oh.
All right, everybody. Go buy the book, and we'll be back with Kurt for the industry.
Thanks again for the opportunity and reaching out. I really appreciate. I appreciate not only you asking me, but I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Do my best.
Yeah.